We have been working to tell the story of 101-year-old World War II veteran Robert Moore over the past couple months. When I put together the full narrative of Mr. Moore's story, I felt it was something that you would want to hear. So today, Robert Moore tells us his story.
And she stopped right there and turned around and said, "Look, this body is not a toy." I maybe asked her, "What's it for?" And I turned around, maybe not in the same sentence. "What's it for?" "I don't know." I don't remember what I said. And said, "That's only for married people." I said, "Okay, let's get married." And Dolores behind her, "You serious?" "Yeah, I'm serious. Let's go get married." And we did. We were married within an hour after that.
My name is Josh Roe, and this is Tomorrowtown, Tennessee.
Come sit in the chair.
So sit down. I was sitting fine over there.
Happy to be here with you today. Thanks for doing this.
You're welcome. I whatever you want that I have, you can have. If I know what you want.
How are you today, Mr. Moore?
I'm okay.
You're okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
What do you feel like talking about today?
Whatever you ask,
Whatever
I'm
I
going
ask.
to try to answer. Somebody got her hair out of place and it's still out of place.
You can sit right next to me.
Who's going to sing?
I just want to talk about your story.
Oh, Lord, you got all day.
Let's start with your childhood and where you grew up and some of those stories. Tell me about that.
I was conceived February the 2nd, 1924. Born 9 months later. November the 2nd, 1924, I was born. My mother and father were both teachers. We lived on a farm, and they paid for this farm during the Depression by whatever legal means they could. Fourth child in a family of 9 children, and the oldest son.
Where'd you live? Where'd you grow up?
Jefferson County, Tennessee, Dandridge. We lived maybe 4 miles from Dandridge. If it had been farther, I'd have gotten more trouble than I did, I guess. No, I went to Maury High School 2 years. Rode a school bus or a mule. Most of the time a school bus.
When you say a mule, you mean actually a mule?
Sir?
When you say a mule, you mean a mule, like an animal.
A mule, yes.
You rode the mule to school.
The smartest animal ever been born is a mule.
And you rode...
Maybe that includes some people. I don't know.
You might be right. And you rode the mule to school.
Well, we had one power source mule. We had 2 of those. Maybe 20 minutes we could walk from where we lived to school. 2-room schoolhouse with 2 teachers, a big room and a little room. We were barefoot from the frost left to it froze again. Had one piece of clothing, overalls. No shorts and no t-shirts. And no socks in it when you're barefoot, of course. Your feet get as tough as the leather on today's shoes. My dad was very strict. He didn't beat around the bush. If he tell you to do something, you do it. Papa get up and build a fire. And on the end of this room were all the benches over there for every kid had a place to eat. And before we eat at night, Papa would always ask a blessing. And you can say what you want, but I believe that's the reason I'm still here. Pop would say, "And save us all without the loss of one." I'm the one that's still left. So Pop makes a fire, get you warming out. It's in the winter time. You get rousted out, get dressed or whatever, and you go feed the mules. The mules took 8 ears of corn. Then we'd climb up on the loft of the barn and get a bunch of hay with a fork, maybe a bushel or 2, and throw it down through this hole. And I've fallen through them holes, by the way. You miscue where they are and you fall in there. And that's what you do when you first get up. And if you've got pigs or something, it has to have fluid. We called it slop. It was dishwater. You had to get that out there to them. And if you came back and breakfast, if it was ready, you ate breakfast. If it wasn't, you wash your face and go to school. Breakfast consisted of bacon. Wasn't bacon like you buy today. It was a 1/4 inch thick and a strip like so long, 8 or 10 inches, and 1.5 to 2 inches wide. It was cut from the center part of the pig, and they did their own butchering there. Their typical breakfast was gravy and biscuits.
What do you think that growing up that way in the Depression, not having a lot, what do you think that did for you? Did that make you tougher?
We didn't know we were poor. We were better off than most people. We had, when I was born, I believe my father had owned 63 acres. Part of it he inherited, but didn't. But by the time they built Douglas Dam, he owned 103 acres, I believe. You wouldn't believe what it took to operate a farm. You're talking this guy, tell him what you want done and what such. My father was partial to me because he had 3 daughters older than me. I'm going to give you my conception of it. Even at that time, I knew that he'd take me where he wouldn't dare. My next brother was almost 3 years later. And my dad would do me favors and so on. But when I'm 13, he gave me an old Model A Ford. That Model A didn't have no brakes. Boy, it wasn't built with brakes. There was no hydraulic brakes in them days. And he drives in and he's already got him another car somewhere, but I didn't know that. And maybe Mom knew it, I don't know. And he says to me, put the brakes on it and you can have it. My mom yelled up, the chicken from the kitchen, you might as well send him to hell now. And that was closer than you think. But I'm not going to get into that Model A, except I had a wheel come off with it. Sometimes I get to a place where I should be telling something else for some other reason, but I was already in Maury High School, and they're building a Douglas Dam. And nobody had any money, but I had a car. And I had friends, some of them had a nickel, some of them had a dime. They get together, we'd get enough gas to run around Sunday afternoon. And Pop didn't mind, I didn't get in too much trouble with that. But went to Douglas Dam and the wheel come off and went down through the bushes and finally found the wheel, brought me back up there. Well, I didn't know what was wrong with this car, acting funny, and that wheel goes by me on it. Well, everybody helped to get that car going. We got it back on, and this car, it looked as good as the average car. But if a guy had a new car, he was the guy that owned the drugstore. His son, Miller, had a new Chevrolet. We're coming back through Danridge, and these kids had, I believe, I had 5 kids, I believe. A guy and a girl sitting in other bucket seats. This thing only had bucket seats in front, even though it was a 4-door. In the back, there was 2 couples. I'm talking about freshman high school kids. And they'd come alongside, and this guy had this new car, and he had kids that we knew in our class in school. And they'd say, get that junk off the road. And these kids, they didn't like it. It didn't bother me much. I know it looked like a junk, but I couldn't run very fast. So if you've been to Danridge, you know where you come across a bridge. That bridge was there. And you go up, it'll be south. There's a little rise about like this. And I'm going up this, and these kids are barking at each other back and forth. And I didn't particularly interested in what they're doing or what they're saying. I mean, I'm not having a problem keeping the car on the road, but this guy comes up, pulled up on the right side of me, and they're making. We weren't crossing, but it was very close. I wasn't saying a word. The best I can remember. Well, I had the chance. I couldn't get around him, but there was a car parked over there. So I pulled up to where he had to almost stop, and then I went around him. As I'm going around him, one of the girls sitting in the back seat yanked her undies off and stuck her butt out the window. And it took my mom 2 weeks to find that out. And that's the end of my Model A till I left that part of the country.
She took your car away.
Oh, yeah, my mother would have run Pop off if he'd overruled her on that. I mean, she was...
Then after that, you went to Bible school in Sevierville, right?
Well, I went to BTS.
Tell me this. I heard the story of you got moved to BTS.
When you were at Maury High School, what happened? How come you had to go?
Well, two or three, I don't know, we've been doing this for, 6 weeks or a month, I don't know.
He was on a school bus with his classmates.
As we'd come to that big hill, it was steep and it'd get down to low gear, and 4 or 5 of us, sometimes 2 or 3 of us, we'd jump out and hold that bumper and I couldn't turn loose. He'd roll back down the hill. He'd get so bad and find him. My mother found out about it. I don't believe I went. I don't know if I went back to Moore High School or not. Before I was going to Moore High School the second year. And sometime during that summer, Mom decided I should be a preacher. The Lord didn't call me to preach. I'd be preaching instead of talking to you. That's how concerned I am with what I wanted to do. I did what I wanted to do. I lived in the dormitory because my mom was going to have me, I'm going to say, associated with all our ministers till I got saved. Because she knew and I knew that the Lord had to do a lot of work on me or I'm gone. But I went down there, I had to take Latin, I had to take algebra, I had to take trig, and I had to take Bible, voice, guitar. I would never, in my whole life, would have thought that I'd ever need algebra or trigonometry in my life. I have never used algebra. I have had to use trig where it was really important once.
One time.
What about Latin?
Never. When you get to high school, you learn a few words that came in handy. When I went to Italy, I could look at it and tell what it meant, but to use, no.
Fire at Murray School, did you have anything to do with that? You're not going to be prosecuted.
Fire.
Yeah.
Was there a fire at the school?
Well, it wasn't. It was really. We were doing something, and we used phosphorus. It comes in a little, like a pint fruit jar. It looks like chalk, and if you take it out of that water, it will burn. It'll start smoking. Well, the last period when the bell rang, we left some of that laying on the desk and jumped out and went down and grabbed our books and went running the bus. Next thing I know, there's smoke boiling out of that window. And we're sitting there and the bus is out in front. We didn't do nothing. We didn't start it. It starts itself. It's stuff you make matches out of. And if you keep it out of this liquid, it will catch fire itself. I don't know how to learn much except maybe. So I didn't do it, you know.
Was that in a class, or were you just doing that?
We were at our last class was lab, and this is Moore High School. I didn't take much of anything worth anything to Moore High. But the last, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes the quiz class was lab, and we're fooled with something. Maybe I don't know what we were doing with it. Showing us that phosphorus get yourself on fire without any light. And we left it laying there, and it put that place full of smoke. And we didn't get to leave till. But I remember it very well, but I don't remember getting in any trouble over that because I was in a classroom and everybody in that classroom was guilty, you know. We just didn't put stuff away. That was maybe a week before my high school term was over. I didn't go to school till next year. I went to Lee. It's BTS. But it's Lee now.
That Lee part will show up again much later in our story, so store that away for now.
December the 7th, I was in BTS in my fourth year, my senior year, when they bombed Pearl Harbor.
What do you remember about Pearl Harbor?
Well, I didn't know where Pearl Harbor was. It's easy to admit now, but it's kind of stupid growing up not knowing where Pearl Harbor was, and most of our Navy's over there having a ball. And we'd see pictures on the newspaper. We didn't have any TV, or we didn't have a radio at that time. The boys, the male population of BTS was 90% men, and they left there that day. They were in the reserve, I guess, and they had left. I remember a guy, John, someone that lived in Washington State, left there in a Model T Ford and his trunk of everything he owned the day they bombed Pearl Harbor. When I was 17, the day I was 17, I registered for the draft. When I was 17 years old, I registered for the draft. You get a little card from the President Roosevelt. Greetings, be down at the draft board. My father took me to the draft board, I'll call it, not remembering exactly what they call it at that time, and told him how many veggies he's going to roll for the army and all that and stuff, and he needs me. And didn't do any, wasted his time, in other words. They tried to get all us stupid young kids to keep from having to draft married guys with kids. So they could grab us wherever they could get us. And before I was 20, I was in the Army.
Did you get drafted?
Yeah, I was drafted. They put us on a bus, took us to Fort Oglethorpe. Is that what you want? I don't know how much of that you want to get into. They make me strip all of my clothes off in front of 200 other guys and give you a basic physical.
That was in Fort Oglethorpe, did that happen?
That was in Fort Oglethorpe.
Gotcha.
The first day I was there. Went to Camp Breckenridge, Kentucky. 10 months. Very rigid, very rough. Well, to get your attention, they get up there and say, you want to kill this guy or he want to kill you. They're talking about Germans. So we were pretty tough. The unit went from Camp Breckenridge. We walked from Evansville, Indiana to Winchester, Tennessee in 3 or 4 days.
So to clarify, you walked, your entire unit walked from Indiana to Winchester, Tennessee. Is that what you said?
Well, Camp Breckenridge is right across the river from Evansville, Indiana.
Evansville.
We go over there.
Yeah.
We get a pass while we're in training. We get a pass till 12 o'clock, and they go over and we'd meet in this little penny arcade thing, and then dancing, and 16, 17-year-old girls. And I'll tell you about one that she was. Some things you got to leave out. Then our play war lasted for maybe 2 or 3 months, and from there we went to New York, and from New York went to some place in Virginia.
I first met Robert Moore in 2017. What you're about to hear is part of the first story I told about Mr. Moore. He told me then about something that happened during his training.
They got a rifle to do a short order drill, and I dropped my rifle and hit across my foot. It turned as black as that table. My foot did, and they redlined me.
He went to the medic for about 3 days. When he came back, his unit had already left to fight the war. So he left and went home.
Got in a little trouble, a lot of trouble. I thought about it for a week, went back, and they wouldn't even let me in the camp. They thought I might be a spy or something.
Now let's go back to that conversation from 2025.
I fought with the Army, and I always lost because I was raised a free kid. Somebody tell me they're going to drive me into the ground, they got to fight, you know. Not that I'd win, but I would always put my resistance in there. went from Virginia to the Rock of Gibraltar, Straits of Gibraltar, and our people did just really, but we hit something. This boat hit something. Now I can tell you what I can remember is I'm 3 or 4 decks below, and 3 or 4 steps I come to the deck. I mean, I come out there, I'm not going to go down with this ship as hard. It hit something. And I thought we hit a landmine. I mean, you know, they mine these harbors and so on. I thought I don't want to swim. I get up there and they've got, I could see a submarine uncovered, maybe a foot of it out of the water, and it's going that way, and our boat's going hard to the right. And I can still remember the suds that this thing is kicking up as it's going. Our boat was giving it all it had to get up from where it was to where it's going. I don't know where it was. Then, by the time, before the boat got turned around, they got these ACAT guns shooting at something. They couldn't hit the side of a barn. A PBY come over, and they begin to drop depth bomb. These are propeller planes with the engine mounted up on their wings, and they would drop a depth mine. And as soon as maybe half a dozen of those, and the ship turned around and went through by, on my left was the Rock of Gibraltar, and I remember that from geography, I guess. And we thought we was going to, of course, there's lots of gossip on a train. Guys come, we don't know where we're going. I know I'd been assigned to an outfit, but I didn't know where it was. From there, we found out we were going to Naples. Talk about going to Gibraltar, but went to Naples. They said Naples had been cleared. Went in there, and we could see 2 planes. They were not jet planes. They were 2 pursuit planes. I found out later up there trying to knock each other out of the air, and we saw one of them go down, but we weren't close enough to know who they were. We didn't know it was our plane or the other guy, but we're going into Naples. And I can remember seeing I suspect it was a dive bomber, I don't know, but maybe 10, 15 miles an hour, I could see a plane coming straight at us. And somebody shot it down. It wasn't me. It wasn't this boat. It had a ACAT gun, but it didn't shoot at nothing. Went in there, first thing they gave me is, I guess somebody meet me there. They knew I'm coming, and it was actually an engineering outfit. I believe this to be true. That was in Italy that I was going over there as a replacement. Grenades, mines. We could take mines up without getting blown up. They said, we got a job for you. You're on guard duty. They gave me a rifle that I wouldn't have, looked like it'd been in the mud. Anyway, it probably had. And 1 shell, 1 cartridge, and told me to go down there, and they took me down there where there was a guard duty, a little fence built out kind of into the edge of the water, and it was where we dumped our garbage. I get down there, my job was to get the kids out of that garbage. Now, I don't know if you've known about K-ration, but when an average GI, and this was really hungry, wouldn't eat K-ration, so it wasn't hash, wasn't fit to feed my hogs at home. But that's an opinion. But these kids where they would open them up like you've seen in the unfold the top, and they were sticking their finger in there and licking that off, and that's what they're eating, and I'm supposed to shoot them or something, and I rebelled at that and got a lot of trouble. I didn't want to pull guard duty, so I walked away and come back up there, and I get in a lot of trouble for doing that. And so in this getting me out there and trying to win, they told me I don't have to use that cartridge they gave me. Use the buddy of the rifle. That's what it's for. I'm not going to hit that kid, a little 3-year-old, 4-year-old kid. I'm not going to knock him over in the water with no butt or no rifle. So the next thing I can remember, I should possibly, they put us in some kind of a cot. We spent that night, and the next day they decided we're moving. Not sure. That's the outfit I'd been assigned to, and I didn't know who they were. Didn't know anyone. You take everything in the kitchen, chairs, stoves, throw them on a big open trailer, and I get on top of that trailer and riding right behind the cab. This truck is probably going 25, 35 miles an hour. You can see disabled tanks and things, some of ours and some Germans. But I'll throw this in. As we're driving along, I watching the scene, and there's a girl there done washing her clothes. And I whistled at her, and I'm probably 100 yards, 150 yards away, and she just grabbed her shirt and I was so tickled at that I wasn't watching where I was going, I guess. I don't know, but I remember seeing a wire as big as my little finger curled and coming at me. Not a bullet speed, the fast you could jog, and hit me right here, and it ripped my outer skin all the way to even hurt my. I remember taking me somewhere, but I don't know where they. I had to go in a clinic. I don't know where it was. But anyway, I wound up to Piombino. That's south of Florence. Going to breakfast, and our kitchen was blowing up for one hit. Now, these Germans were good. And somewhere in there, we were given a little job to go build a bridge. That's the best way I can say. Our outfit got in trucks, no tools much, but an axe and a saw. You go up there and build a bridge. We built a bridge over a little ravine, maybe 20 feet wide, 20 feet deep, and so we'd get light trucks over it. We worked on that thing all night, no chainsaws, you couldn't make any noise, and they told us dig in, because there's tanks in the area. I'm not talking about our tanks. We hadn't seen one of our tanks in a long time. But when we get all done, you get 20 guys to carry a log that's only 20 feet long. And it's okay if you go up on a hump and it's really heavy, you go down and somebody else is carrying you. We built this bridge, and I don't know if they blew a whistle or yelled or what, but anyway, it's time for breakfast, so we grabbed my mess kit and reached over in this stack of rifles. I remember that very vividly, this stack of rifles. Picked up a rifle. I suspect I knew it was mine, I don't know. And I got maybe 200 yards from this, and that bridge went up in a bomb. Something hit it, a shell. Germans they'd hit that bridge, let us work all night, and then blow it up with toothpicks. I'm running fast as I'd ever run before, and I slipped and fell. And this leg had been hurt. I first got in the Army, but they thought maybe I was disabled. They picked me up and put me on a stretcher, took me down there, and they were going to get me stand for a Purple Heart. They thought I'd been hit somewhere. I wasn't hit. Before I went up there that night to build that, when they told us it was tanks, I built a little nest, like a pig would go to have its young, a little around the foot of a big tree. I said, ain't no tanks going over this. This true's too big. They carried me past that. I can remember that. The next thing I can remember, they probably told us, probably it's what I don't know, the war's over. So we somebody set up a movie projector again and used an old barn for a screen. And they're showing a movie on there, maybe after dark, 30 minutes after dark. And somewhere out there, I was watching a movie. Who was shooting at us? No, they wasn't shooting at us. They were shooting them guys on the screen. And we found out that probably was a 50 caliber German gun. Well, we got back to our trucks and got out of there. And I think we went back to Piombino. We were at Piombino when the war ended. The Japanese We bombed the atomic bomb in Japan. The war's over. We dropped a bomb more than all bombs combined. You never saw a happier bunch of guys. The war's over. We're the happiest I could remember being. Well, I grabbed a Jeep. I said, I'm going to see the Tower of Pisa, about 30 miles away, and we're way past being happy. The war's over. We got nobody shooting at us anymore, and that's quite a good feeling. We drove straight to Pisa. Get down there, we're going to ring the bell to this Tower of Pisa. I didn't know it was a bell tower when I left. That's a bell tower of a church, a big church. Get down, the ropes are cut. We go up around them stairs. A spiral, I don't know what, big rocks the steps are made out of big rocks. Maybe it's 14 steps, 14 stories, I don't know. Ropes have been cut up there. We ain't gonna stop this. I get up there, the ropes are cut off of these big wheels. These wheels are probably 8 feet in diameter. 7 feet in diameter. Been a long time. I'm guessing how big they are. And between it was 2 bells. I climbed on top of that thing and climbed up on one wheel, and the guy climbed up on the other wheel, and boy, a sound that rang with me for a long time. Not that day, but I mean many days after I could hear that thing.
Okay, I want to go back to that story from 2017. Back then, he told me about serving with the combat engineers during the war.
Now, these Germans were good. They at 5 miles away with I don't know how far, they would throw a shell into our kitchen, not just to disorient us.
He says he took off running to his foxhole. He fell and hurt his knee. He said he was hurt a couple of times, but Mr. Moore refused a Purple Heart.
If I had claimed either one of them getting hurt, I would have had enough points that I would have been sent home before I met Marie. Well, we went back to Piombino. Within a couple of days, we were ordered to move. And we had a little time to move. We left Piombino, went back to Naples, because we had a good staging area down with a fence around it. I'll say this about it. When I went overseas, I'd never had a relationship with a girl. None.
And sometimes, when Mr. Moore tells this part of the story, he can get emotional.
Sometimes I want to go. I want to see the ones that I love over there. I go to bed and I said, Lord, let me just not wake up. Quite often I do this, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. You can go back to, you need to make a tape of this sometime. You need to go back to how the Lord made me meet their mother. I'll just say this, and maybe you'll think enough of it to do it. We're talking about a little incident that happened before, 4 or 5 guys sitting in a booth, and we're talking and laughing, and here comes a little girl, gets on the train.
He has told at least part of this story every time I've seen him, and it is incredible.
And the train stopped, and in comes a little lady. Prettiest thing I ever saw. Prettiest thing I'd ever seen in my life. And somebody said something in Russian or German maybe, or I don't know what it was. Some other language I knew. She could speak 5 languages, I know. And she answered him in English. I said, it's a shame if she could speak English. She said, I could speak English. And she went over and sat down within 10 feet of me, across the aisle. I don't know if I got permission or if I just got up and went over and sat down with her. I began to ask her how old she was. I thought she was 15. She told me she's 18. And she'd been up there looking for a job as an interpreter. Wow, this is what I've been looking for all my life. That was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen in my life. And I began to talk to her. I'm going to go home with you. You ain't going nowhere with me. I'm going home with you. You're not getting out of my sight. She told me she had a brother, a mother, and 2 or 3 sisters. And she began to fend off everything that I could come up with, and it all seemed to be, not where I wanted to go. I told her, look, I ain't leaving your sight till I know where you live. She writes a little piece of paper. Tell me that's her name and address. I knew her name already. She'd already told me her name was Marie. I looked at that like I don't know why, and I handed it back to her. And I said, now tell me the real thing. I didn't get off where I'm supposed to get off, and I did. I went almost to the end of the line. I don't know what I told her, everything I could think of, and I ain't doing so good. She said, if you'll let me alone, I'll meet you tomorrow where you're supposed to get off the train at 6:30. The next day at 6:30, I'm there, and she gets off the train. And lo and behold, she had a lady with her. And I wasn't happy with that. But that lady turned out to be the best friend we ever had. Her name was Dolores, her sister. And they had 2 watches. This may be awful for your film, but it's the truth. She had 2 watches, men's watches, nice watches. She owed $2.50 for them, probably worth $100 a piece. And she said, we have to sell these watches. Why do you have to sell these watches? Very, very evasive answers I got. And finally, I found out that they didn't have any money on them. I told her, I'll give you $50 for them. I can't take her. Dolores just became the spokeslady. You know, we can't take $50 for them. We can't take a cent over this. Okay, I took a $50 bill and I took my lighter and I lit it and handed it to her. And it dropped to the ground. She stomped to the ground and they're arguing with each other. Why'd you do that? That's $50. That's $50. Probably got $2,000 in my pocket. You can't do that. We need the money. Okay. She said, we have to have a job or money for these watches or we won't have any breakfast. There's a sign up there that said for rent, a little duplex. And I went up and rented that and I said, now you got a job? I'm going to give you $100 a week to take care of it. You clean it up and take care of it. And the other one, you could do the other one. I hired them both on the spot. Then they wasn't so worried about money. So we're walking along. Now there has to be something there that I'm forgetting. I don't know. Somewhere we had been to a movie. And it has to be a day between somewhere in there. And I'm just not clear enough. It wasn't particularly a quiet movie. It's a little loud for a fella that never been to the movies much. So she sits here and Dolores sits over here, and I didn't touch her. I mean, not even that. So we're walking along, and I put my arm around her waist, and she took it down. And we're just walking. And I don't know, we were having trouble talking, but Dolores was 2 steps behind us. Boy, I guess I'm probably trying to get her. I want to talk to this girl by herself, but I couldn't do it. So I put my hand over her shoulder. I don't know if I felt a slip strap or a bra strap or what it was, but I turned it loose because I got resisted real quick. And she stopped right there and turned around and said, look, this body is not a toy. I might be asking her what's it for. And I turned around, maybe not in the same sentence. What's it for? I don't know. I don't remember what I said. And said, that's only for married people. I said, okay, let's get married. And Dolores behind her, you serious? Yeah, I'm serious. Let's go get married. And we did. We were married within an hour after that. Had no idea really what I was proposing, but thank the Lord he did. We got married in the afternoon just before the courthouse closed. And I don't know what happened to Dolores, her sister. She disappeared, and I thank the good Lord she did. So I got the Jeep and we went to Pompeii. I took her back home in the Jeep and I said, I'm going to Switzerland. And I talked to her about a ring. I hadn't bought her a ring or anything. And we take my little finger like this, and it was the same size of her ring finger. So I left her there and we went to Switzerland. When I get back from Switzerland, almost within a day, they had an office for me. and a job. They put me in charge of vehicle maintenance and drivers. Went to Switzerland, came back, I'm gonna say 10 days. And when I got back to Pozzuoli, she lived in Pozzuoli. I got back to Pozzuoli and I wasn't sure exactly where she would be. And I'm on the street walking down to her house, and her little niece yelled at, "Uncle Bob, Uncle Bob."
When Mr. Moore told me this story back in 2017, he said he and his wife were married 3 times before they left Italy to come live in the U.S.
They were married in January 46, the first time.
In order to get $50 a month for her, taking nothing out of my pay, they got her a wife allotment, and had to be married by the military. Went in to my commanding officer, and you gotta do something. I filled it up, and he signed it, and that means I'm married to a civilian. Her mother and sisters bugged me, get married in the Catholic Church. Her mother talked to me. She said, "If you leave like this, you leave a bad name for us and our family." She said, we could have a wedding in the Catholic Church, and you leave us in good shape with the community." Okay. We went in there, and this priest said a few words, and we're married Catholic. And that was good in any court in the world. The war was over, and figure I'm gonna take this girl home with me. She's willing. We get to look, and it's, from memory, it's bad on this. $6,000 or $7,000 gonna cost me to put her on a passenger boat. Wasn't no airplanes. We had airplanes. We'd send home guys in bombers sometimes. That's a good story too, but I ain't gonna bother you now. And the little thing, I read the fine print, and it says I can send a dependent home. Huh. By the time I get all that paperwork out, that thing is in Naples, and I'd put her at a hotel down there, quarantine. 2 weeks she was in that quarantine, and she gets on that boat and go. I thought she was going direct to New York, but that boat had to go to France and pick up another bunch of women, and came home.
So Bob and his young bride Maria get busy building a life in the U.S.
After we'd been in the States a couple of years, of course I'm reading everything that we'd talked about. We're in a family. I suspect we decided to, and I'm reading these articles and telling her what, I wasn't trying to sell her on the ideal, you understand? We're working on this together. Mostly she's talking and I've been reading about it. Anyway, she says she wants, can we have a baby? I said, sure. Not right now, she says. We've got to find out if we're going to have a boy or a girl. Okay? Okay. Okay, well, she thought she knew how to do that. When I say she thought, I'm not saying I thought I'd learned enough to trust her. Okay, I had. But, make a long story short, we ordered a boy and got a girl. Fast forward to the delivery room. We were in the waiting room for 4 or 5 hours, 3 or 4 hours. They told me, okay, you can come in. I went in. Maria's laying there flat on her back in I bet it's a delivery bed, I don't know what it was. And she's holding this little child with her hand under the shoulder, or this hand under her butt. And as I walk in, she says, "This is my Joy. Can we call her Joy?" That's Joy. These two boys, these two used to sing a song, "Nobody but God could do it." There's probably 1 million pebbles and potholes between the day I was born till today. And some of them are right here. You can say what you want, but there's no bottom of pothole, you know. We've had some marvelous things happen to us.
Robert Moore told me several other stories from his life, including a defining moment for his faith. His family told me he was never the same after reading a book, The Cross and the Switchblade.
I went broke in Chattanooga, and I moved to Detroit and went to my brother's house to stay because he owed me a favor. And I'm laying down there working during the day and laying there in my brother's basement. And he threw me that, said, you need something to read, and he handed me across the Switchblade. But thing you need to know, I believe nothing. I would read an article, what's his motive? It had to be that or I wasn't interested in reading it. Well, this Cross and Switchblade was, I don't know if you read it. It's a very interesting thing. The guy again would tell you nobody but God could do it. And I was smart enough to know that. That guy either lying. Why is he writing this book? I didn't think it was, I don't know why I thought. Maybe the reason. I'm laying there and it tells about when they got their first teen center done in Brooklyn, and they wanted somebody to help them run it, management, Christian kids. Well, they went back to his church headquarters, where he went to school. He was a young minister, and he said 72 applied for the job, and he only picked 6. Why? I don't know what was turning over. The good Lord knows what was taking place. Then he comes back. The next thing he says, he come back to Lee College in Cleveland, Tennessee, and picked up 6 more. I knew that already.
I mentioned the part about Lee earlier. The Bible school that Mr. Moore attended as a teenager was affiliated with Lee University. Lee is in Cleveland, Tennessee, where Robert Moore moved his family in the 1970s.
If that's true, all this is true. But the moment I believed, I'm going to try to explain this to you. The moment I believed, I felt a thing like it wasn't like a lightning strike, but I felt something from this foot to this shoulder. I know it wasn't, I knew it was the Lord somewhere. I said, Lord, if that's you, I'm going to be the best Christian you ever had. And I meant that from the bottom of my heart. And I thought I needed to say something else, and I said, Lord, I ain't never going to lie no more. Myself has not been the same, but I tell people when I get to that, the Lord didn't call me to preach or teach. I'm very proud that the Lord thought of it. But when I believed, when I felt this thing, I was moved I was laying in a bed, in a bunk bed, down the lower bunk bed, and I was moved from that bunk bed to standing on this foot out in the middle of the basement. And I don't remember getting out there, but I remember the tears. You wouldn't believe, unless it happened to you, the only way you could believe it happened to you, is the tears and the emotion that went with them. I knew who it was then. Some people I know that preach pretty good. When I told him promise the Lord I ain't gonna lie again, he laughed at me, but that was a sweet laugh. But on up 5 or 6 hours later, I'm out there cleaning a machine and I'm realizing I've got the best job in town. And that same power come over me, the tears and the Lord was right there. I don't know if the Lord, the Bible that I'm arguing with, argue with a lot of stuff. Tells you that God don't talk to nobody. He has to have a priest between him and him. Well, you go back and talk to Moses face to face, but Aaron was there. So I ain't proved that right or wrong yet. But to talk to me, to give me something to do. I'm going to add this. These kids probably don't know about that, but your sister does. When I left that place, I cried all over this league and took shop rags and wiped the tears off. And not that day, but a week or two after that, why, my toolbox just kept coming up, and I could see it in my memory almost. And I went out there and looked at the toolbox, and there lays a chuck, a Jacob's chuck with the league adapter, worth probably today a couple $1,000, but that time maybe $1,000. And I said, I got to take that back. So I grabbed Linda, she'll know this, and I took it back over and gave it to that guy, and he couldn't believe I'd bring that back. But I don't know. But Linda is not here today. But
that book
I don't,
in that time that changed your life.
what?
That changed your life.
The book.
Well, my life was changed immediately there, but
It's been different ever since.
I've did a lot of things, but I've quit lying to people.
Art was telling me that at some point, this was after the war and you were working and whatnot, you built a boat. Tell me that story.
Oh, that was one of the little projects I did. But when I first went into skill trades, I didn't go there to go to skill trades. I go there because my family was almost hungry. And I went to work, and I see these old guys sitting down over there. I don't know how much of this you want today.
Just tell them about the boat story.
Well,
Tell them about what you did.
the boat sitting at the bottom of a lake down out of Atlanta. Unless
Tell
somebody.
them about what Zen said. That.
Huh?
Tell them about Zen wanted you to build him a boat, and what you did. If you can make that.
Well, he bought the Mercury motor. Had just come out with they call it a 10, but they said it'll outperform a 15 horse Johnson. Say, Zen comes up there, just bought a boat motor, and I'll make me a boat. Well, we had some friends, I'm not sure which one, that worked for Alcoa, and I'd worked for Alcoa before, and I know as an employee you could buy aluminum. So I told him what I wanted, and he brings us sheets of aluminum. Instead of being 1/8 of an inch, it was maybe 32nd, or maybe it might have been 16th, 60,000. We cut that up.
So it was thicker than you wanted.
Huh?
It was thinner than you wanted. You wanted it thicker and it was thinner.
Well, the first thing we did, I worked in a shop where everything was available to me.
Yeah.
I went over and I made a drawing for the bottom and sawed it out. And then I went to putting the sides on about so high. And I found out you can't arc weld aluminum. It bubbles like cooking blackberry pie. And it freezes in that. And I decided to make a cabin cruiser out of it. Well,
But first, you got to try it out.
well,
Yeah.
we got this boat formed out, and we had little board on each side of the back end, because it was as flexible as a seat. And one seat up 3/4 of the way forward, and took it down to Grand Boulevard and set it down in the water.
What water was it? The Detroit River?
Detroit River, they seagoing ships goes up through there, all the way to Minnesota, Great Lakes. From a street level down to the water is probably normal 5-6 feet. And they step sometimes go down there, I don't know, far. But when one of boat goes by, and this river there maybe is 1/2 mile wide, It's where all the Great Lakes drains into the St. Lawrence River. A lot of water going through there, and it's deep. And I knew that already. We put that down in there, and that nutty brother of mine, and nutty that we'd like to tell you shit, but he's pretty smart. He gets out there, and I don't much more than get set down, and he starts that motor up. And boy, it goes. And here comes this wave from this boat that's going up a big boat. And he hit that thing at maybe 30 degrees, and it went up in the air. And I'm looking. I wasn't scared. I'm looking for some markers so I can tell how to get that motor out of the bottom of that river. I would never got it if we'd have sunk. But he got it straightened out, and I told him I ain't never going to ride in a boat with him no more. But anyway.
So you saved the motor?
Huh?
You saved the motor?
Oh yeah, we got it, brought it back and put it on. I believe we put the boat on top of the station wagon and took it back up there and did some more work on it. Because after I got that done, I built a cabin on it, made it look pretty sharp. I had a picture of that somewhere.
I'd love to see it. Because the sides are only this tall and they're in the Detroit River.
We brought that thing to Atlanta. I knew it had a little leg. I don't know why we were doing that. I wasn't working in Atlanta then. It was before I worked for Atlanta. Go out there and it's leaking a little bit. And your brother, you can argue with him without making him mad, you know. So I ain't going to pull that thing out. You can pull it out. And we left it sitting there. I tied it to a little bush of a tree. I don't know if he went out and had a sandwich or what, but come back up there and that thing gone. Come back the next morning, it's still not there. So, it either sunk straight down. If it did, somebody pull it up, look at it, dip, and leave it there. It's still there because it ain't gonna rust. But it ain't worth looking for.
So it either sunk or somebody took it.
Huh?
It either sunk or somebody stole it.
I don't know anybody steal it, but it would sink.
Back in 2024, I was honored to attend Robert Moore's 100th birthday celebration. Here's part of that story.
She's ready to party.
A long line.
I got it. Thank you. I got two, okay?
People waiting to celebrate Robert Moore.
Happy birthday, Bob.
Bob works too, but most of the people in this room know this man by another name.
Papo.
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 That's amazing, Peppa.
Hey, we love Papo. Hey, Papo.
Close enough.
How are you?
But this is not just any celebration. This is a major milestone.
How does it feel to be 100 years old?
Probably my favorite answer to any question I've ever asked. He had a little more to say.
About the same as it did last year, I guess.
100 years is a big deal.
Can you handle 100 kisses?
You gotta capture the moment. A round of birthday pictures.
Okay, everybody look again. Woohoo! Everybody right here.
One more. His children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, all here, a big, loving family that all started with a lucky encounter during an important moment in world history. Back then, Papo was a young soldier in Italy in World War II when he met a young woman on a train.
1, 2, 3.
Robert Moore moved to Cleveland in the 70s. Here, his family grew.
We honor him for who he is and the patriarch of this family.
And on this milestone birthday, they all came here to honor the man they call Papo.
I have no idea why God let me live through all that. I wasn't an angel, but I guess I got everything I deserved. I've got 5 kids. Most beautiful grandchildren in the world. And I've got 5 of the best kids that's ever been allowed to live in one house. My children are a gift from God. I tell them every once in a while, I run across every pothole that a guy could hit in 100 years and every bump. But my life, if we had $1 billion in the bank, wouldn't be as happy as what I've got right here.
A big thank you to Robert Moore for telling us his story on to Morrowtown, Tennessee. This podcast is a production of News Channel 9, Fox Chattanooga, and Sinclair Broadcast Group Chattanooga. I hope you join me again real soon.